Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Dan Richard Fishing, and today we're going to be installing stuff on the boat. In fact, this winter I have a ton of stuff coming up. So today we're going to start off simple, and we're going to change the aerator pump that is on my boat for a number of reasons, but really fish care is a big deal for me. I'm really focusing on improving fish care for the 2022 fishing season, and this is the first step. So today we're going to talk about how to install this. As you can see, it's very simple. You just basically need your pump, some kind of a strainer or a filter. We're going to need some marine grade silicone and just a little bit of degreaser and maybe some other cleaners to get the old silicone off, stuff like that. If you want to skip to certain parts, go right to the install or whatever, go ahead and just use the chapters below. You can click and skip to whatever part of the video you want. And as always, in return for doing these videos, all I ask for is that you subscribe, drop a like if you got something useful out of the video, and if you have any questions or anything like that, use the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Let's get rocking. First up, we're going to be installing the Attwood Tsunami 800 gallon per hour aerator, which is this guy here. Note the extra long neck that's on here. It's not the super short one because I need to make sure it passes the transom and I have enough room to attach my filter. Okay, so this is going on there first. I'm actually replacing a Tsunami 500 gallon per hour model that's currently in the boat. Next up, you're going to need some kind of a filter or strainer that connects to your system, okay? And in this particular case, I'm using this stainless steel filter. All right, this is a strainer cup, and it just threads on. They also have a white plastic version if you prefer that aesthetic, but I wanted a more fine filter, but they do have a white one. They also have a different kind that's not part of this kit that can connect, and they go all around the opening that you made in your transom, which is also available, and I've seen those in black and in white, but in this case, like I said, I'm going with this. We'll be using the Starbright marine silicone, and we'll be using the Super Clean that comes in a purple bottle like this. This is one of my favorite degreasers. This is what I use all the time, and it's actually got biodegradable detergents in it. We're going to need this because we're going to be cleaning up the bilge. All right, let's jump on the boat. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how the current system is set up. All right, so we're checking out the transom here, and you can see on the transom I've got two holes here. Now the first one, this is the intake for the Livewell. So this is actually the pipe here that comes from the aerator pump. And you can see here it's been sheared clean off, so I can't connect a strainer or anything to this. So that's why I want to change this. And what happens if you don't have a strainer, when this is running, it just starts sucking in all kinds of junk. So I was getting this all jammed in fact, there's stuff in there right now. So I'd get stuff jammed in here. I was blowing fuses. I kept having to clear it out manually, so my fish were suffering big time. And this is actually the drain. So my Livewell is a gravity drain, so I basically just have to take a tube out and the water just comes out here. So that's kind of how this works. So I do not have a recirculation pump or a pump for pumping out the water out of the Livewell. I simply have to unscrew it and it's just like a drain like on a bathtub. So let me show you the Livewell and how that works. Okay guys, here is the Livewell, and inside the Livewell you can actually see I've got a center drain down there. And that center drain is threaded, and that's basically where the water drains out. And this is actually the fill nozzle, so when I turn on the pump, all the water comes out of here and sprays out. Now, there's an overflow tube. That's what this guy is, and this has also got threads, and it threads into the bottom drain like so. And then as the Livewell fills up, when the water level reaches the tube, well, this is the overflow. So it drains over into here and then drains out the boat simply by gravity, exactly like a bathtub overflow would work. So it's very important that we're constantly circulating water so that we're oxygenating the water. We're not allowing the standing water in the Livewell to become too hot for the fish and putting the fish into shock or killing them. So super important that we always circulate water. Now, this boat also does not have a timer for this to go off. So we're going to cover that in another video because we will be installing a new timer. Now, ideally, what I'd love to do is actually install a recirculation system in this boat. But in order to do that, you got to take the whole floor off. And the problem is with this boat here is that there's no screws. All the screws are underneath the carpet. So I'd have to tear out all the carpets and take this whole floor apart in order to do that. So I'm just going to go with the next best option, which is to use circulation from the initial pump, from the fill pump, and we'll put that on a timer. And you know, I fish mostly rivers anyway, so there's always cool water flowing in. So I think that'll be the best option without having to tear the entire boat apart. Now this should be a straightforward install, right? It's not, and here's why. That is the only access to the bilge, and to give you an idea, that's my hand next to it. So I have to access everything through here. Yeah, this ought to be very interesting, and I'm not sure how we're gonna film this, but we're gonna try. All right guys, let's have a little look-see. So you can see down in there, you can see the original bilge. So with the little bit of red on there, that's the bilge. You can see the intake hose is the smaller of the two, the rubber hose that's clamped on. And then you've got the wire with the black and brown that's going into a harness right in here. You can see kind of a cluster of wires. And then back there where it says V500, that's actually the bilge pump in case we get some flooding action. There we go. All right, sorry, it's kind of out of focus, but back there. So there's 3 steps to basically getting this to work. So the first thing is we need to remove the bilge pump and then clean up all the old silicone and all the junk that's around there. We need to disconnect the intake hose, and we need to cut the power wire and splice in the new one. All right, so just so you get a better idea of what this looks like, this is the actual aerator pump. And you can see you've got the flange. So this is what's going to go inside. The flange is going to come through your transom and stick out. And then you've got the nut that connects over top. And this is what's going to seal it up against the boat like so. And then this is the outlet that screws on that rubber is going to connect to like so. And then you've got your wiring, and it's actually also the brown-black wiring like so. That'll connect to the wiring that's already there. And that's pretty much it. And then once that's all installed, we'll go ahead and cut this to the right length we want, and we'll go ahead and put on the strainer. That's it. So first thing we're going to do is loosen up the clamp on the rubber hose and pop the rubber hose off the intake. I couldn't get this hose off of here. It was just way too stiff. I just didn't have the access. And when I tried to pry it off, I started actually cracking the tube, and if I crack it too far, then I'm really going to be in trouble. But because this is the same Attwood that I had before, this is actually the same type of valve, but there's no washer. I'm not sure what that's all about. There was no washer, so sorry, it's not in focus. There we go. So I just left that in there. So what I did was I just popped this off, all right, and that's the transom. And down in the bilge, this clip is what connects to this guy. So this clip here, so I unclipped it, and then I just spun it around and I unscrewed it from the valve that connects to the rubber hose down there. And I just unscrewed it off. That's the old, there we go, that's the old one there. And there's actually junk inside of it. So yeah, this thing is a mess. So here's the old one. You can see what they did was it wasn't silicone on at all. They had a washer, a rubber washer, rubber gasket like this, and no silicone on this whatsoever. And you are supposed to put silicone on here as well as the bottom threads. So yeah, not the best setup. I mean, it was working. There was no water. There's no water coming in the bilge. So obviously it was working, but yeah, that seems a little sketchy. Here's the new piece. So I just took the washer out, and I'm going to put the washer in the new one, in the old one, because the old one has no washer, which seems strange. So we're going to try that out and see what happens. All right, guys, so first things first, we're going to need to cut this off and splice it onto this new cable. And then once we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and clean the bilge off with this, and then we're going to go ahead and install the washer into the old one. And all I'm going to do is, so this is currently in the bilge connected to a rubber hose like this, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, before I wire it up, I'm going to connect it to here, and I'm just going to twist it and turn it like so, if I can get it. And I'm just going to basically keep doing that until it's completely in position, and then we'll test the whole thing out. We'll see what happens. All right, let's splice these two together. And of course, I'm going to use my little heat shrink solder glue-in-one connectors. All right, there we go. Electrical's done. We've got our coupler on. Everything is spliced on, ready to go. So now we're just going to clean up the bilge, and we'll be good to go. All right, guys, here we go with this. And got my light here, and With scrubby brushes, I'm just gonna clean up this whole area so that I make sure I have a nice clean seal. With this bilge area cleaned up all in here, we're just gonna make sure it's all dry, and then we're gonna clean the outside of it with alcohol. Now, if there's old silicone on here, you'll need to get that off, but it doesn't look like they used any. There's no silicone residue here whatsoever. It's just really important. You want the silicone to have good seal, good contact. So that's why we're gonna use the alcohol. Make sure to get it nice and clean. And next, I'm gonna try and screw this in place. And this is gonna be the tough one, because I kind of need two hands, and you can't get two hands in there. Well, I guess you can barely. All right, so I did get this finally threaded on. It was painful, but we got it. Then we're gonna go ahead and, just trying to get the wire out of the way. So next up, we're just gonna go ahead and put this thing through the transom, if I can get at it. Just have to be very careful. I don't want to hit other wires or break anything. Guys, when you get a boat, make sure you get a lot of bilge access, because otherwise you're going to do this junk. Okay, there we go. Okay. Next up, we need to connect the power connector. All right, so at this point, we've got everything connected on the inside. So now I just want to test fit this. So I'm going to put this on here without screwing it up. There we go. And by doing this, it'll also allow me to tighten the clamp on my rubber hose on the inside. And I do apologize, guys. I wish I could show you this, but we're going to just put it hand tight for now. And that'll allow me to make some adjustments on the inside. And then we're going to see what we got to do with this guy. Now here's what's cool about this, guys, is a lot of people don't realize this, but you can just connect a garden hose to this. You just need a female-female adapter, and you can just go ahead and put this right on here. I'm just gonna go like that. There we go, and what's cool is now I can test it. I can test out the system. So let's turn it on and see if we're working. So you can see I've got water coming out, so definitely going through the Livewell system. So basically the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look all in here, and I'm going to check for any leaks, basically at the fitting. And then after that, we're good to go. We can start finalizing the installation. All right, there you go. The nozzle is going. So we definitely have water coming out. And let's turn on the switch. So here is our fill switch. Oh yeah, I can hear it going. And now you can see it going with the nozzle tightened up. So that's great. This is working great. So let's close this up and we can do the final install. We're just about done. Now we got to cut this off. Now here's the big mistake that I see all the time, is that in the videos of how-tos, they cut this off flush with the bolt, with the nut that goes over the flange. But if you do that, you're screwed, because you can't put on your filter, right? Like this is a strainer filter that goes here, right? That needs to go on like that. So if you've cut it off flush, you can't put these on. There's ones that go all the way around that you want to glue here, but I didn't want to put one of those. I prefer to put on a nice strainer like this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and I'm going to leave this thickness here. So it's about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to leave about 3/8 of an inch of thread sticking out, even up to 1/2 an inch. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off, and then I'll be able to put this on. All right, we're all set. We've got it cut. Now I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to go ahead and prepare our silicone. Now just make sure you use a vacuum cleaner, get all the dust out of here. You don't want to suck any of this stuff into your system. Okay guys, you might have noticed a little time warp just happened, and I do apologize. We went from filing this down and cleaning it up to all of a sudden it's installed. So I do apologize. I just realized once I started cleaning up that the entire portion of putting the silicone and everything did not record. So I'm really sorry about that. So let me explain what happened. So first thing we did is, after we cleaned it up, I went ahead and opened the bottle. Now a little trick with the Starbright silicone bottle here is that you actually need to unscrew the nozzle cut the tip off, put the nozzle back on, and then cut the tip of the nozzle, all right? So, because, you know, usually these bottles, you cut the tip off and you use the pin and you break the seal. This one, no, you need to take the nozzle off and cut the tip off and then put the nozzle back on, all right? So what I did was I actually put silicone all on the outside on the threads, as well as on the boat itself where the nut would cover the flange. Then you go ahead and tighten that up. Hand tighten, okay? So hand tighten as much as you can. And then in terms of how much you should tighten it, do not over tighten. You want to turn it with a wrench a quarter turn, or the equivalent of 8 to 10 pounds of torque, okay? So once I had that on, I then went ahead and put on my little mesh filter here. I just put a little bit of silicone on the threads there to hold it and tighten that in place. And one of the things I mentioned was you cannot use these strainers as the tightener, okay? So like you can't just put this on, the strainer on, and not put on the bolt over the flange, the nut over the flange. You need to put the nut on, you cannot use the strainer, okay? And so that's all on, and I'm letting it dry, and that's it, we're done. So that was the install, short and sweet. That's it, guys, we are done. The old pump is out. In with the new, we're all set for the spring. So now all we gotta do is wait till the spring so we can test it out, make sure it's actually working, but all signs show that it's in good shape and ready to go. So you can see it's actually a pretty easy installation, minus having a bilge that you can barely access. Aside from that, you're pretty good. It's an easy upgrade. The only thing to bear in mind is that the 800 gallon per hour pump consumes 3 amps, whereas this one is only 1.3. So the new one actually consumes double, but seeing as we're switching to lithium anyway for 2022, not too worried about it. So now all that's left is I gotta get the tie wraps in there and secure all the wires, make sure all that's good to go. And that's it, we're done, guys. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Really easy installation. I'm looking forward to installing the timer as well. We'll have that at a later date. I'm actually just still waiting for the timer to come in. And I've got a bunch of Garmin stuff coming up. We got some unboxing because we got some crazy Garmin gear that's coming in. So stay tuned for all that, all right, guys? So make sure you're subbed, drop likes, drop comments, drop bells, all the YouTube stuff, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. All right, take it easy, guys. Have a good one. Peace.